Out of the sweetness and the beauty of the light, all nature produces her miracles of manifestation. But the inward radiance of nature is perceived only by the soul of great artists, poets, and men who possess a sense of beauty. These, able to attune with the inward parts of outer manifestation, glow in fervor for the glory of God, because they see behind the physical screen of the appearance world. As I come this day, then, it is mindful of the hopes of the children of men that have been sustained throughout the ages by the angelic hosts, for the coming in of the kingdom of God, for the great parliament of man, so called, wherein man enters in to a greater awareness, in fact the greatest awareness, of the purposes of God. When this occurs, all life, according to the concepts of those who hold this hope, will be self-fulfilling according to divine ordinances. Hatred will cease, and love will everywhere extend its border. Nature herself will begin to take on the new aspects of cosmic gain, produced because humanity have at last ceased to throw out into the stream of consciousness those elements of discord which create not only pain and sorrow in the minds and beings of the individuals engaged in them, but also spread abroad the poison of darkness and despair into the world illusion, entering also into the elementals, the tiny creatures of field and forest, who create and sustain the loveliness of nature. Affecting then their portrayal of universal law, we find the manifestation of human corruption in the thorns of the world and the thistles of darkness scattered and tumbling across the face of the earth. We urge, therefore, upon all that the effect of human conduct and standards thereof upon all life shall be considered by all men, hopefully not only by the spiritual soul or the dilettante, but also by men and women in the world who will perceive divine virtue in the higher moral and codification of the law, that will reveal that by these standards, by the stripes of the law, will men be healed of the pain of its infringement. We bring into your mind then this day this inner awareness of beauty and hope, and say to you that the tide of divine love is increasing upon the planet. For because of the darkness of men's minds and the lowering of the standards of conduct and the awesome activity of human destruction, the whole world has been affected. And today, the tides of darkness seem everywhere apparent in the reporting of the various news media of the world. But seldom do any choose to report on the rise of divine love. I come, therefore, in the name of Almighty God, as a press agent for the ascended Master's consciousness, to remind all humanity that the tide of love is converging and filling the earth with light, right while human discord is being spewed out. And when there comes about a meeting of human darkness and the power of divine love, this light energy often reacts and produces strange reactions in nature and in men. There is a great deal of unrest and dissatisfaction then with those activities in the world which create such pain and sorrow. Humanity, because of the rise of the light, are not quite content. As it was said of old, uneasy lies the head that wears the crown, so those in authority who feel that because they now have this temporal authority, have arrived at a place where nothing can unseat them, are a bit uneasy as they see the unrest and the destruction as potential in the world, and reckon with it, as in the time preceding the French Revolution, or the time preceding the entering of Noah into the ark. Destruction seems everywhere possible. But we are not concerned to magnify it. It is an activity of the returning currents of negative karma, and we are concerned with the positive thoughts of the divine souls who have turned their hearts to God, and with a prayer upon their lips every moment are constantly reaching out for the kingdom of heaven, that it may be produced and the miracles of the kingdom be produced upon earth, is their every thought and prayer. And so, as in spring men see a bud appear, we in our octave of light see the bud of cosmic creativity appear. And as it appears, we perceive that it must be disseminated and scattered as seed potential all over the face of the earth. Men and women of hope must see their minds as a scattering hand. They must consciously will it so, and by calling unto the divine in themselves, invoke the power of the infinite cosmic whirlwind to go out and scatter seeds of virtue and hope in the world as a counteracting power to dethrone all the records, cause, effect, record, and memory of evil, and produce, even now in God's name, a tide of greater light tomorrow than the tide of light that lives today, to surge forth into the world as renewed hope in the minds of men. This renewed hope must function not only in activities of cosmic ascended master light, but wherever there is a waiting consciousness that yearns to receive the power of cosmic immutability and perceives that this immutable law does function in and through the world of form, through every man, through every woman, through every child. This law is life. Life surging toward its own perfection. It cannot be dammed up or slowed down by human consciousness, for it has the power to transcend the ages. Whereas men and women passed from the screen of the life in 70 years or more, this never passes. It is the Christ consciousness, the same yesterday, today, and forever. In fact, this very statement itself is not properly understood by men, for it does not take into account in many cases, or many do not take it into account, that it is a transcendental activity of God that is taking place, whereby His beauty becomes more beauty, His love becomes more love, His hope becomes more abundant. Everything that the Father does for humanity is more and more abundant. Those who see it not are those whose minds and consciousness is darkened by superficialities that now have taken such a terrible toll in the world's thought. we from our retreat here in Arizona then would send forth the power of the cosmic sun of illumination. We are in contact now, and we were before we came, with beloved Paul the Venetian and the great god and goddess Meru at Lake Titicaca. And there is a triune radiation ushering forth from the retreat of the god and goddess Meru, our retreat in Arizona, and the retreat of the Chateau de Liberté in France. This radiation, amplifying by the power of the 3 times 3 and the great cosmic unfed flame through the tripartite flame, will act in the world of form and will create in man an understanding contrary to what we might call the state of being a human vegetable. Humanity, by reason of habit patterns, have so stratified and stultified the action of the God currents in their life that they are often no more than that, a human vegetable. And we are concerned with the destiny of fulfillment. We are concerned with a release from those impeding currents of human doubt and human anguish, and we are determined to release into the world of form the mighty cosmic currents of immortal life. Let these currents flow. Let these currents flow. Let these currents flow and break the dams of human stratification. Let them flow out into the world, and let the cosmic harvest tide of blessed light redeem in man all that needs redeeming, fulfill in man all that God would see fulfilled, and release in man all that is dense and illusory, transitory, and frustrating. As we speak to you then, it is to remind you that the cosmic currents of life do not monotonously release themselves into the ethers, but they come forth with subtle beauty. They come forth with the assistance of elemental life, and they come forth with the power of the great central sun itself, expressing through them. Because this is so, every individual upon the planet, and every nation, and they of every tongue, and of every race, can find the immortal love tide of freedom functioning in their world, a gigantic, spuming, radiant, fiery waterfall upon which the sun does dance, a cosmic radiance, a light intelligence upon which the cosmic horses do prance, a splendid, a gracious, all-loving power flowing into the world every hour, redeeming all man's fruitless buddings which have not flowered, and creating the hope that all things shall be done well according to cosmic purpose, that all things shall rise, that all things shall be elevated, that we shall deny the power of those conditions that would drag men down, that we shall affirm the power of those conditions, those spiritual graces which will raise and elevate the soul. And now, because of the import of the thoughts I have given unto you, because they deserve a speedy meditation and cosmic action continuing day after day, I shall personally stand aside and, as some might say, get out of the way, that the great God currents themselves can be released, not only through the chalice of the ascended Master's level, but from the great cosmic levels, that every heart that would receive it and feel it may beat with it, become one with it, and implement it by their own attitude of entering into the heart of God and saying, "Here am I, send me. Send me. Use me. Send thy energy through me. Send thy energy into the world. Redeem, recreate, love, and raise life until it is all free, until the kingdom breathes free in men, and without shame they pursue the burning quest of cosmic reason in fulfillment of life's destiny." Peace and grace be unto you from the heart of Ariel. Peace be unto you. Come into the timeless world in which we dwell, a world under the eternal banyan tree, a world where the meditations of man's heart becomes acceptable in the eyes of God, in the eyes of the crystal radiance of eternal purpose, when the souls of men respond to the gentle humility of the eternal Master. For in our contacts with the brotherhood of light, the great white brotherhood, down through the centuries, we have always noticed the beautiful manifestation of infinite love, that the higher we go in the cosmic spectrum of the ascended Masters, the closer we come to the heart of God, the more gentle, the more dignified, the more gracious is the mien of the ascended ones in the higher echelons of life, where purity and the natural beauty of cosmic selfhood is made known. And so, my brothers, assembled here in the Grand Teton Ranges, in this great hall of light, let me commend to men the spirit of a joyous, yet sometimes muted humility. A humility that is not displayed as a jewel before men to show forth or trumpet their Christ discrimination, but a jewel of naturally buoyant, sparkling abundance that is the cup of eternal joy that floods over from their heart. Do you know, beloved ones, what is happening in this room now? The light of my presence is increasing the illumination even in the outer in this room. And it shines through the substance of the atmosphere. And therefore, that which takes place in the Grand Teton retreat is also taking place simultaneously here in the Colorado mountains, where you are gathered together at the feet of God to hear the deliberations of the brothers in white, as we have and hold this annual ceremony of spiritual beauty. Will you then, with me, enter in to that harmonious and magnificent acceptance of the divine seed, the seed of God's grace, and have it planted within you for the coming year and for all the cycles of life that God shall grant you in His foreverness, the foreverness of His love that spans all the domain of time and takes into account all the holy wisdom of the brothers of light that have ever lived upon this planet and served the spiritual needs of the children of men in their long journey from the primitive and primeval beginnings unto the present time. Our hearts tonight, regardless of the world's density, must of necessity express the sparkle of the deity, the sparkle of hope, and the passions of the illumined. We cannot submit ourselves to the awful life and death struggle in which humanity are engaged. We cannot offer ourselves as a sacrifice, trading the great light of the eternal presence for the morbidness and shadow of men's thoughts. Would this be a correct action on the part of heaven, to submit ourselves with the great hopes we hold so dear for humanity in exchange for the paltry sackcloth and ashes consciousness of men? I think this would be no reasonable discretion at all, but an activity of human foolishness. Therefore we shall not submit to those who would bring the ascended realm down into the human realm and trample upon it as though it had no reality. We know what reality we have, and it is up to us, O brothers of light, to convey this reality to humanity with all of their recalcitrance. Let them then learn to sit upon the lotus throne of divine receptivity and cupping their consciousness as a beautiful golden lotus of light, receive and drink in the descending radiance that pours out as cosmic Christ peace from the heart of God. Let the world engage in strife and struggle. If they knew better, as you have been told, they would do better. And in their ignorance there is no sheltering from the great karmic winds. For the natural law brings to them almost daily the tremendous accumulation of their own negativity, their fruitlessness, their silly involvements in petty argument and struggle, and their strange metaphysical speculations that are not based upon God humility and the beauty of Christ's atonement, that does not even feel the necessity of breathing out a decision upon all cosmic matters or even mundane ones, but is willing to simply bask in the light of the presence. Without fear, these men, my brothers, these men of God that are amongst us, the body of servers of humanity, that we ourselves compose, know whom we have believed. And we are convinced that he is able to keep that which we have committed unto him against that day of perfection for all men. Therefore, because we are clean escaped from those who live in error, we must maintain that beautiful equilibrium which is our natural order, in order that we too can convey to humanity this peace, this grace, this expanding light that is within the heart of God. And therefore in our heart, as we hold our heart to be his heart, a chalice of receptivity, a chalice that is not moved to desire that it be filled with the trinkets and baubles of the world or the senseless struggles for recognition from mankind. We are satisfied with the recognition of accomplishment, that what we do bears fruit for love and light. We are satisfied simply to be, as I said in an address a few years ago, referencing the great Gobi Desert and the message it contained inherent within its name, simply, beloved friends of light, go be what you are. And I repeat it because it bears repeating. Learn the natural graces of expression. And now, as Sanat Kumara has arrived here from Venus, the regent of the world, we ourselves are bowing our knees in humble acknowledgement of his beauty and his kind thoughts for all humanity and for all the universe, for the entire cosmos. Gracious ones, he accepts your love. Won't you please be seated? This time, a strange phenomena is witnessed, for there are two bearers in white that are accompanying the beloved Sanat Kumara. And they are carrying what appears to be a giant white pyramid. And within this white pyramid, something is enfolded, some object. We are certain, and we do have the power to penetrate the beautiful white substance that shimmers so delightfully, which is shaped as a great white pyramid. And we could, if we would, go through it and see what it was before he chose to reveal it. But here is a beautiful example of cosmic graciousness. No one of us would dream of doing it. For we wait, as you do, for the supreme moment of revelation when all will be revealed. And now the two gracious gentlemen in white have placed upon the altar here in the great throne room of the Teton this precious pyramid of white. And two beautiful angelic beings are approaching to remove the covering as they lift it now, what do you think the thought form for the year has become? A natural figure that some of you may have anticipated. For they say that coming events cast their shadow before them. And in this case, it is a golden pyramid with a magnificent white capstone with the eye of God looking every way within it. And the light rays are magnificently pouring out from it. Your pyramid conference symbol, the symbol of the Great Seal of the United States, has now become a symbol of world building, of personal building, the building of the character of the individual, the building and raising of the pyramid of life, the elevation and constructivism of a new era as the decade begins. And all is centered in the magnificent capstone of life, light, and love. The eye of God, then, beholds the affairs of men, and whatsoever they do in secret can be shouted and shall be shouted from the housetops. Do men see, then, that this is the time for the uncovering of much of the discordant elements of the past that have sought to rule mankind and usurp the authority of God? This is a time for exposure of the dark plots to undermine the government of the United States and the power of true democracy, which always takes into account the karma of the people and never comes about with the idea of equality, which is completely foreign to cosmic law. For if we are to deal with immediate equality, and everyone is to receive at the same time a complete division of the material goods of the world, then they would also be entitled to all of the spiritual goodness of cosmos. And if this comes without merit, but comes to all equally, what do you suppose the unillumined individuals of the world would do with this great find, supposedly a great permanent find of light that would enable them to have all the knowledge of God and all the graces of the elect? Why, beloved ones, they would squander it upon their lusts and the darkness of their being, and the first thing you would know, the world would be in a far worse state than it is in today, because they would be violating the cosmic laws of karma and trying to escape from the return of the law of the circle. Therefore, it is the will of God that we should support those forms of government where freedom is truly the expression of life, and where the God powers of the world, in an atmosphere of freedom, can help evolving humanity to take their place properly upon the ladder of life, because through cosmic merit, through love and through grace, and through attention to the things of the Spirit, men have waxed great in the Spirit of the Lord. And then it is as it was in the days of Samson, when the great vow of the Nazarite was bestowed, that the power of the angels that is in the hair as symbol is once again restored to humanity, and they understand the law that does indeed reward mankind according to his works. And this is no desecration, for through works men are able to receive the grace of the Lord Christ, that in the beginning enabled them to accept the actual presence of life in Eden, to walk and to talk with God, and to see him face to face, in the grand and fond hope then that the fulfillment of the ancient prophecy, henceforward man's teachers shall no longer be removed into a corner, but he shall see them face to face, will become fulfilled. And in part, as I am speaking to you now, in the realm of the outer, through your beloved messenger, a part of this prophecy is being fulfilled. For you are seeing the movement of outer, temporal-seeming lips uttering timeless and eternal truths from our octaves of light. And this is enabling humanity to build a faith in the future where the Spirit of life can commune face to face with man. For certainly, if we are able to step forth thus through the veil of flesh, it is only a step, a heartbeat, or a breath from the time when we can actually step through the veil into physical manifestation. But, beloved ones, there is much work to be done in the coming year and the coming decade in order to build faithfully the kingdom of God and His righteousness, not only in the domain of the self, but everywhere upon the planetary body. If we could do this through the elements of orthodoxy, if we could actually engage the teeth of our energy in the organized churches, which are so large, that have such great treasuries, printing presses, and facilities for humanity, it would be such an easy task for us to reach mankind. But the dark powers of the world have recognized all these conditions, and they, through the National Council of Churches, and in the National Council of Churches, have infiltrated and actually deprived humanity of their lawful inheritance and of the kingdom of our Lord transferred by the laying on of hands, through the hands of the presbytery, through the hands of the bishopric, through the hands of ecclesiastical authority, handed down century after century. This, having been broken in the outer, has created a breach in the actuality of the manifestation of the root or rod of Jesse. And therefore today, as in times past, the great brotherhood of light has manifested a repair in the wall or the breach, and we have bypassed what is constituted as ecclesiastical and ordinary authority, and have transferred by the Spirit the authority that was once passed on by the laying on of hands, so that now the laying on of hands becomes a matter of spiritual investiture, where mankind receive the mantle from on high and are made either messengers of God or servants of God. Now tonight it would be my greatest pleasure if all in the physical octaves of earth who hear my voice and are apprised of my presence would also themselves recognize that there is a function in which they can engage that will be constructive and assist humanity through this activity in bringing forth the ascended Master's law of life and light. We know the hindrances that have stood in the pathway of our beloved messengers and their staff in bringing about the publication of the forthcoming book of Ascended Master Law, which ought rightfully to be termed the everlasting gospel of God. We know how the powers of darkness have in every way opposed them, even almost beyond the belief of the students, unless they could actually see those conditions which have existed in the past. We know also the financial limitations that have prevented the expansion of this work in the world of form. We are aware of the fact that within the student body, as they apply their hearts to God, is the means to alleviate all these conditions and provide not only for the expansion of this activity in a physical way, but also in a spiritual way, by alleviating the limitations that have become obstacles from time to time in the expansion of the light to humanity. How many amongst mankind today have, through some form of periodical in the world, through some advertisement, been made aware of the tremendous possibilities of their spiritual attainment through the activity of the Ascended Masters that is the Summit Lighthouse. Understand then that we of hierarchy recognize today that this activity has stood so strong against the tests that have been brought against it, that it is our desire tonight to strengthen the bonds of life in all who are participants in this ceremony, to do for you whatever gracious thing the cosmic law will allow us to do, so that your hearts may be locked in our embrace of peace, that will stand firmly within you as an activity of protection against the whirlwinds of outer humanity's consciousness. We are so anxious that whether you are children or older people, those of you at any age should share in the bounty of the sacred Eucharist of the Brotherhood, that you should partake of the body of God and know that within yourself eternal life is actually entering into the very fiber of your bones. Do you know what is happening now? I have caused the cosmic clock to act. And therefore, we are taking off a certain number of years from your physical form. Some of your friends may remark, quite remarkably, that you yourself appear much younger than you formerly did. Now I realize full well that this will be according to the degree of your acceptance of our fiat. For certainly, if you set up a counter thought or do not accept our thought, then of course this will not be the case. And we recognize full well, in the name of common sense, that if we were to take off 5 years from a 5-year-old child, he would revert back to a baby. And therefore do not expect that we are going to absolutely render you indestructible in a moment, for you have a very definite part to play in this manifestation of our love. And so as you sit tonight under my banyan tree, as you sit tonight in the consciousness of the masters of the Grand Teton, will you realize tonight that we are real? Will you realize that we are tangible? Will you realize that we too have a sense of humor? That we too have passed through the vicissitudes of life? That we have had stones thrown from the hands of men that have cut us and wounded us deeply? That we have suffered tortures, sometimes beyond mortal belief? That we have suffered diseases, pain, and heat and cold? Will you realize that in spite of all obstacles, by His grace, we have entered into His peace, and the disciplines of the Spirit which we express are most magnificent because they are His? When you yourself come to the same point in your development that we are in now, you will look backward upon this moment and say, it was a turning point in our life. For we came to realize that Lord Gautama was not just a little statue in a shop window or an incense burner on someone's hearth, but was indeed a living being of love and peace, a being whose heart is truly inclined to hear the voices of the children of men. Will you realize then that the sweet incense of your love for every ascended master is always offered unto God? And will you, precious hearts of light, please not allow your consciousness to be taken up with the idea that a little more homage paid to me than to Jesus might in some way inconvenience Him, or a little more love paid to Him than to me would inconvenience me. For we are all one, and our love is absolutely devoted to the godlike within all humanity. Why then will humanity engage in this sense of struggle, such as the very Reverend Billy Graham, who would in a moment exorcise me if he were able to see me tonight speaking to you, and he would do it with the best of faith, because this man has a very kind heart, but his eyes are not opened to the light of right action and right speech, and many times the information that he conveys to the world actually leads them into a spirit of darkness rather than a spirit of light, simply because Christ is not just a manifestation of a dying sacrifice upon Calvary's cross, but Christ is alive forevermore in the hearts of the devotees who will accept Him and understand that as they bow to this Christ within themselves, the fullness of His presence enables them to break down the middle wall of partition between East and West, between humanity and God, and permit the great eternal effulgence of the divine light to flood forth its radiance everywhere, uniting East and West, and even uniting the hearts of individuals who are actually at war with themselves, thus making peace everywhere. Will you understand, then, the duality of self, and not fear to enter into the spiritual aspect of life on the other side of the veil? For humanity today often remind me of children playing for the first time by the seaside who come from inland parts, and as they see the great swirling tides and the unknown depths of the sea and its extent spread before them, they look upon the waters with fear, and they stick in their little toes, and then they quickly pull them out, and they cry as the waves come inward, and they run from the tide, the great tides of life, and they fear to even enter the water. Individuals today pursuing spiritual goals are quite frankly from time to time like these little children. And therefore I ask that you be patient with those who do not always accept these teachings at the first sight or offering. And learn to be patient with those who over the years have studied the teachings and then, trembling for a moment upon the brink of reality, turn away in fear into the dark and actually do not accept the great light of the eternal presence which would so majestically give them their freedom if they would but accept it. Now, precious ones of the light, as the love tides of God are flowing through the karmic lash as well as the karmic gift, as the Ark of the Covenant is dispensing its mighty rays for the true spiritual Israel, we want you to understand that wherever you go and wherever you are at every moment of every day, God is there, and the ascended masters are there with you. You are not separated from us by time or space or circumstance, but you are always one with us if you will only remember it. But you see, outer conditions are like a smothering cloak, and the breath comes not so freely beneath this cloak, and mankind in their great life and death struggles do not sense that they simply have to throw off the enclosure in order to breathe the air of freedom from the mountains of life. Will you then recognize with me that there are conditions in the world of form created by human doubt and questionings, by fear and struggle, and by the burning of experience that causes humanity again and again to cringe from accepting more of God's grace? And how easy it would be for individuals in the world of form, gazing upon the situation now being enacted here in Colorado Springs, to say to themselves, what actually is manifesting in this wandering mendicant, this individual who stands upon a platform before humanity and speaks to them as though he were Lord Gautama? Such is not the case. For surely you must know that this messenger is so well aware of his own stature that he often takes his fist and beats it against his breast and cries out, "O God, help me to be what the ascended masters are." I say this to you, although he does not particularly relish my saying it, because I want you to understand the reality of our message. Because, you see, if you do not accept the reality of our message, there is so little that we can do for you. For the general radiation of God himself in the world of form has not produced the miracle of God's reality, because humanity has not accepted it even from the hand of the Infinite One. Therefore, when the great and mighty cosmic transformer, with its great glowing ray and fires of immortal wisdom, cannot himself effect humanity according to the divine plan and produce the miracle of peace on earth, do you think for one moment that individuals will be able to accept someone else besides eternal God? Well, you see, precious ones, the way we do it is to step down our energies by using smaller transformers. And so we use this messenger, we use the living word, we use our voice speaking in the heart, and people read the slokas of the Bhagavad Gita or the Sermon on the Mount, and reading the sacred scriptures of the world, and moved by the faces of humanity, as they see the glint and gleam in the eyes of humanity that reaches out as a great searchlight to find the mystery behind creation, we recognize that all are searching for the God that is everywhere to be found, but they do not find him. It is as though he plays hide and seek with humanity, yet in actuality he is ever present to bring the delight of his glory to humanity and bring about a reign of peace and beauty upon the earth, where industry would be blessed and all departments of life would be blessed by the grace of God functioning through humanity and bringing out the great creative power which man has within himself, so that he could actually enter into the joy of creation with God. But you see, precious ones, if this were to be, it would mean a situation where the great bull of man's untransmuted energies would recognize the violet transmuting flame and all of the activities of the light as an inflamed red cloth flung before the face of the bull, inciting them to riot and anger because they do not like or relish the changes that would be brought about by the manifestation of the kingdom of God. They want to have everything just as it always has been. The sense of struggle, the darkening clouds, the darkened threads woven into the tapestry of life, and all the sundering activities that divide hearts from heart and create pain and hurt, anger and disillusionment. We are concerned that all of these conditions be brought to an end, that the God magnificence of life may shine forth from a temple of all embodied humanity. We are concerned, and we would to God, that the temple of the individual would be rent in twain, that the light of the Holy of Holies would flash forth its immutable light into the world of form, and produce there then a realization that we are real, a realization that God is real, a realization that man becomes real as he accepts the fiats of the unalterable truth of all Scriptures. Will you then understand with me that this present senseless struggle that has been occupying the consciousness of mankind not only through the 60s but all the decades of this century and then going backward in time almost to the beginning of time have never produced the miracles which God has sought to do? And so then now, why is it that we bring forth the truth through this avenue? Because we must have some avenue through which to bring it forth. When we have brought it forth in the Scriptures, it does not seem as the living Word. And individuals reading it say, we must be good, but do not understand that what this really means is we must be God. And instead they decide that they are themselves and that God is not. And so the God is dead cult has also uttered its voices forth into the world during the past decade. Recognize with me then all that God is seeking to do now. He is seeking to increase faith in human hearts by our speaking these messages forth into human consciousness right from the great forum from which we speak in the Grand Tetons tonight. For the brothers in light that are arrayed in their seats on every side of me actually have folded their hands in prayer to God, and if all of you could see the smiles upon their faces as they are nodding and beckoning to one another in approbation, for they do not dare to clap, would understand, precious ones, that that bubbling joy that is flooding forth from their hearts is enough to save the entire planet if humanity could only see it. But you see, where are they now in their thought? Some are caught up in the revelment of tooting trumpets, some in the strange imbibing of the spirits of the glass, with the fruit of the vine being changed into inebriation. And others right in this moment are in prayer, some actually saying, I thank thee, O God, that I am not as other men. And so you must understand that whereas in the land of India from whence I come, there are any number of swamis and fakirs who are as deceitful as they are existing temporarily, so also in the Western world there is an accumulation of learned pundits who could never understand the grace of God because the shadow of their own consciousness stands in the way. These could not accept the gentle ministrations of the Spirit, nor the fact that I am, nor the fact that they are in the Father's kingdom now. They continually seem to think that their salvation lies in some learned expression of philosophical wisdom, without understanding that all of us who have arrived at the ascension have done so without so much as learning the 3 R's. We never had to actually master a single cosmic grace by outer conditions. It was all brought about by the recognition of the living Word, the simple thought I am within our hearts that enabled us to have the wisdom of God, and we knew all things without studying. Well, do you see what we are talking about? We are not speaking disparagingly of education, beloved ones. We are simply saying that education will not produce your salvation. But many times when we have produced a relative miracle of salvation in mortal consciousness, we have said to an individual, now you go and get your degree. Or we have said to them, take your time. The degree can come later. We will give you your cosmic degree in our spiritual university. We will teach you to understand yourself and to understand life and to become one of the helpers of the Christ that walks in the dark and holds the hands of men when they are trembling with fear. It holds the hands of men when they lay awake in their beds and they begin to ponder the reality or the unreality of the self, and some of them contemplate suicide, the extinguishing of the blessed flame of life which God has given to them. And some of them, having tried all of the various adventurous manifestations of worldly consciousness, again and again come to the point where it seems as though a dead-end street is before them and there is no place that they can go or no place that they can hide. Let them understand that if they will enter into the heart of peace which I am, if they will enter into the heart of peace which God is, if they will accept the reality of this something which we are conveying to them through this activity, then the mighty beams of the cosmic lighthouse will itself have reached their soul, and reaching their soul will have searched that soul and revealed the anomalies, the discrepancies in mortal consciousness that will show them clearly that all they have to do is act the part of a falling leaf. For when the autumn does come, and the leaves do separate from the tree, and as the air itself holds them up for a moment, for they dash not to the ground as a stone, they twist and turn as the wind does blow, and eventually are safely and beautifully, gently dropped upon the grass. So is everyone who commends himself to God's care. For he himself, regardless of outer circumstances or conditions, will always, whether falling or rising, rise or fall into the hands of God. This is the inevitability of life. And as I speak to you tonight, it is to say to you that the reason why this activity comes under attack is entirely one of humanity themselves needing what the activity has to offer, a higher contact with our octave of light. We hold your attention in this talk simply that we may bathe your inner bodies with our wisdom, that the fires of our wisdom may contact your soul and charge them with our radiance. The reason we hold the speech this long is in order to give you a greater measure of our blessedness and bliss. But don't you understand, precious ones, that this activity is actually the greatest activity and outer manifestation of on this planet that is actually bringing to humanity, if they will accept it, the fullness of their freedom? Do you not see clearly, precious hearts of light, that this freedom is a challenge to the dark powers that hold the world in bondage? They do not want the cycle of their ideas broken, even though there is no actual thread that runs through the substance of the world's thought to hold it together. They still would maintain the semblance of order in the chaos that manifests in their world as mounting traffic accidents and outer conditions continue to rob mankind of his inheritance. But we are concerned solely with the transmittal of the fruits of immortal life into manifestation. Oh, beloved ones, our love for you tonight is so great because we see you as stepping stones to the world's thought. Each of you is then an ambassador of love and light to the world. To what extent you apply yourself to our words will you be able to function as a more effective emissary of our cosmic grace and of His love? Will you understand then tonight that I expect all of you to ultimately avail yourselves of the opportunity of hearing this address given tonight again and again, because in it are the elements of our hope for the new decade. We must reach humanity. God speaks to men's hearts daily through the silent ethers. They do not hear. The fields of orthodoxy are a repetition of a distorted message. And whereas it has value for humanity who require and need some spiritual food, it is not the message of deliverance. The masters of the Great White Brotherhood hold all of that within their heart and hands. They and they alone are able to convey the wisdom and the mounting intensity of cosmic law that will free this planet to become the love that God is. As you understand this then tonight, will you, with me, recognize the hungers in the hearts of men? They know not what they should have. They know not what they should seek. They are children, even as all of us are children before the face of His presence. But we who have seen Him face to face know that His Spirit is the greatest child of all eternity. God Himself, even the greatest masters have said that the universe is a cosmic playpen in which God sits, with eyes of wonder, waiting the moment when humanity will finally recognize who they are. And as they do, they will speak God's name, I am, and the child will be a man. Peace eternal. The mighty eye of light in our retreat is lit, and the fires of hope are fanned. Some of this, beloved humanity, comes about through the natural hope in the hearts of men as they face the future, looking to a new decade. But a great deal of it comes also from the graciousness of God that is now becoming inflamed with hope by the projected rays from our retreat out into the natural order of manifestation dedicated to the great eternal realities which were implanted within the hearts of men from the beginning, but which have become overlaid by the accumulation of mortal effluvia and the density of mortal hopelessness. I am Tabor, and my desire is to increase the communion between God and nature, and the communion between man and God, and between man and nature. We are concerned then, as you should be, about the air pollution of the world. We are concerned about the pollution of the mental atmosphere. We are concerned about the pollution of the etheric world in its lower ranges by that mental destructiveness of thought and feeling which creates those events which are then channeled into the memory body of the race. Beloved humanity, in past ages, the fruits of man's wrong sowing have manifested as the destruction of the ages. Ages have fallen. Humanity have themselves lost hope. And time on time again, civilization has returned to the most primeval manner of life. Let me say to you then today that the universal faith which we ourselves seek to promote in the heart of mankind should be amplified by your attunement with your God presence. You cannot afford, blessed ones of the light, to pay heed to outer conditions or those activities which function in the mental belt and the emotional belt and are designed to cast down your hopes. We know full well how individuals, gazing upon their own life, can so very easily develop, as they concentrate upon the advancements and progress of others, a feeling of inferiority, a feeling that they are not as capable as they might be. Well, beloved ones, we today are concerned with the development in every chela of that full measure of faith which will enable him to feel that he has just as much grace available to him from the Godhead as any other part of life. Oh, we know that the karmic law is certainly acting, and when individuals have, for many, many years, actually served themselves and ignored their divine presence, quite so, they will not have the cosmic merit that others would have who have served the presence. Nevertheless, down through the years, so many times, embodied humanity have forgotten that the moment they begin to turn and serve the light, whereas the light does begin to serve them, it is not always readily apparent, for there is a certain natural law in life which sees to it that humanity are given a certain test. You can see this in the statement made of old, out of 1,000, one seeks me. Out of 1,000 who seek me, one finds me. Thus the Lord of heaven is well aware of how humanity have ignored him and his precepts. The Lord of heaven is well aware how humanity have allowed themselves to hold darkened concepts. But remember that deep within the heart there is the God flame ablazing. In some life streams it is so tiny, so very, very tiny, that these individuals do not even seem to have what you might call a toehold into spiritual reality. Others are born in this embodiment with a tremendous spiritual accumulation of merit and of God's will. These individuals find it easier by far to embrace the concepts of the deity and the service of the brotherhood. But remember, dear hearts of light, that even those who have a very small threefold flame should above all begin the expansion of that flame. For to him that hath shall more be added, but to him that hath not shall be taken away that which he hath. So who does then need more of the flame, I ask you? Those who need more of the flame are those who have less. And those who have a great deal are the ones who seem always to be leaping forward into the light. What does this signify to you? Especially those of you who are in the lower ranges of the accumulation of the sacred fire. It should be as a whip cracked upon the back. It should enable those students to see to it that if they lack, then they must gather a more than ordinary amount of cosmic activity. They must perform more service because they lack, not less. That the reverse is sometimes true, particularly in the world, is one of the causes of the world's present dilemma. There seems to be a condition in humanity which actually stymies their own best interests. But we are concerned about it. For God does so love the world that he gave his only begotten Son. And therefore, all humanity should be taught that they are the sons of God. That it does not yet appear what they shall be, because they have not finished their course. They are on the path. They have not come to its end. They seek. They have not attained. Why then do so many among humanity insist on accepting the ersatz aspects of life? Why do they seek synthetics when the realities of life are that from which they derive their very breath? One of the principal and primary reasons, beloved ones of the light, is because men are victims of habit. They are creatures who think in one common rut, and they infect one another so quickly with the wrong thought, even more quickly than they spread abroad the power of the right thought. This is why in a group such as those of you who have come together here, there is always a blessed uplift to your spirits as you sing, as you offer your blessed decrees, as you consider the state of the world and what you can do to contribute to perfection and universal change. Your hearts buoyed up with hope contact the realm of the angels. And in those moments you have in consciousness what we will term an almost apocalyptic vision. You are able to see through the dark clouds of the mortal miasma. There is a shattering and parting of the clouds, and the glowing light of the sacred fire, and the faces of Christ and of the saints peers through. The angels are seen also moving in gentle pantomime across this opening into the higher octaves of light. You then realize that there is a spiritual world. You realize the function of retreats such as ours, to actually be energy pools of cosmic light, to hold in reserve for humanity the elements of the sacred fire that can become a source of inspiration, of hope, of relief to humanity in their moments of doubt and distress. The sun is shining outside, but it is the inner sun that we would activate. The sun in the mind, the sun in the heart, the sun, the centrosome of every cell. For we would create in the cells an awareness of the fires of the central sun, and thus, with the speed of cosmic light, humanity become blessed in the whole force field of their being by the great central sun. As the mouth of each tiny cell opens to receive God's light, and each cell is seen as a crystal chalice, hope then becomes more than hope. Faith becomes more than faith. All become the charity of universal love, unmoved by outer circumstances, unmoved by the dense projections of the world. Individuals are able to take their stand with the light and say, I am one with you. You are the light that never fails. You are God's light, manifest in me. You are God's light for eternity, and you can never be misqualified or requalified by human thought and feeling. In God's name I forbid it. I insist that the life that beats my heart shall also motivate my whole consciousness and the structure of my identity until I am in consonance with the Lord Christ and with those avant-garde souls from the ascended master realm who are producing the miracle manifestation of the Christ consciousness in the world of form. Beloved ones, be not amazed that where our greatest focuses of light are located, the busy marts of commerce continue to traffic in mortal things, and the consciousness often seems to be not at all turning toward the light of the region. The same is also true in Darjeeling. The same is true in Paris, where we have a great retreat. The same is true even in the area of the Grand Teton. Where we have these retreats, again and again we find that individuals are attracted by the light of the retreat. For example, in this community of Colorado Springs, we have also drawn in or magnetized a large number of people to come to work and to play in this community simply by reason of our presence in this retreat. Let me say to you then, out of the earnestness of my soul, many of these, simply as ships that pass in the night, are here without ever knowing of our existence or doing more than sense a little of the radiance that draws them to the area. Let not your hearts be troubled, for we are sending out the light, and we are drawing to this area other souls who will respond. But we are preparing here, even in the outer focus of La Tourelle, a specific momentum of cosmic service and holy wisdom, which will be given to the world point by point as the days go by. Your pearls of wisdom, your keeper of the flame lessons, the total aspects of your activity receive daily a bathing of the energies of hierarchy upon your blessed persons and the very atoms of the property. We walk these grounds, sometimes in the body and sometimes out of the body. We exhibit our energies here. We prepare magnificent documents for release unto humanity. We gather together the brotherhood of light upon the planetary body in the outer mode through this focus. And we are determined to see that nothing shall hurt or destroy in my holy mountain. Thus I, Tabor, while I am speaking, have invoked also a specific action which I shall only reveal in part. For as I am speaking to you, in the atmosphere above the building, on a platform created by the angelic host, the Lord Maitreya is already standing and radiating a tremendous power out into the atmosphere. Even as I am speaking, the Lord Jesus has also made his appearance by the side of Maitreya. And now, joining these blessed souls, beloved Mother Mary descends, holding in her hand a miniature Arc de Triomphe, the Ark of Triumph, which signifies that the sacred fire shall not go out. Now, beloved ones, thousands of the angelic host, together with Archangel Michael, are descending, and Michael is taking his place at one end of the platform. While I am speaking to you, you are also being blessed by the presence of Chananda of the Indian Council. And Master El Morya is with me in my retreat here, beaming out his energies and power. While all of these events are taking place, we are also predetermined that our efforts shall bear fruit among humanity. And we are determined that in many cases, where the students of the light in certain parts of the country and world, including this city, have failed to exercise the great cosmic opportunities that have been given to them, that we will turn in heaven's name to those who have never had any esoteric training, to those who have never had any religious training of any consequence, and we will speak to their hearts and quicken their consciousness so that they will take the place of those students of the light who have failed to exercise their divine prerogatives. And I tell you, you will then behold and see the fulfillment of the Lord Christ's statement, if these shall hold their peace, the very stone shall cry out. This is the light of the Gentiles and the light of Judah. For both Jew and Greek, bond and free, and all humanity shall be blessed by this universal release of our light from the eternal kingdom. You may say in your consciousness, why do we have only so many masters standing on the platform? Well, beloved ones, it is a small platform, and the heavenly hosts are actually very many in number. And I think if you will stop for just a moment and think for yourselves that the grace that you are receiving from those who are standing there is far more than your souls could ever be able to comprehend in 1,000 years. Therefore, I trust that we will be acceptable to you as we are, and that there will be no complaints from your hearts concerning the limited number of individuals who are here. We are determined that you also shall produce some light, and therefore, as I am speaking to you right today, I say to you, will you conduct an experiment with me? You are always looking to heaven to actually produce light. Now I am going to show you a little experiment in cosmic joy and cosmic energy that will give you a great deal more self-confidence. I am going to ask every individual in this room to recognize that he has a God flame. I am going to ask him to set aside for the moment his sense of carnal limitation, his sense of sin, his sense of error, his feeling that he is not good enough to be counted or numbered with the heavenly host. And as I ask you to do it, I expect you to do it, for it is an activity that beloved Maury and myself have discussed prior to this speech. Therefore, I say to you, set aside your sense of limitation and inferiority. Decide now in your own hearts that you who have this God flame are going to expand it as God intends it to be expanded, and are going to draw forth the radiation that you expected to receive from these masters over your heads down here below, and then send us the radiation that you draw forth from God, and we will ray it out to the world and scatter it everywhere to all the children of light who are in need of sustenance and assistance from inner levels, and we will help the whole world because of the energy which you draw forth. And I have only one promise to make to you, and that is that if you are successful, which I certainly hope you will be, I will see to it that a little of the reflected glory from the world will strike you in the head and heart before the day is over. And I will see to it that your hands also, especially your right hands, will feel a momentary throbbing of that great light if you will produce the necessary devotion and confidence in yourself to draw forth enough energy so that we can make it tingle in your being. I want to assure you that if you do not have that experience later today, if you do not feel the reflected glory that comes back to you from humanity's consciousness, do not in any way be distressed about it, beloved ones, for I am certain that many of you will. But those of you who do not, if you have made the conscientious effort, may find that the glory will penetrate at a later date or a later moment, and you will still find somewhere along the track of time that you yourselves will receive back the energy you have sent in a certain portion, concentrated so that you will be able to sense that Tabor and the ascended host above have poured out their love to you, for the love that we will pour out with your own will also be returned to you in this reflected glory, contributing to your confidence, your self-confidence, and enable you to understand that you do not always have to draw forth energy from the beloved ascended master's realm, that you can also contact your own God presence directly and draw forth cosmic energy and send it out for the assistance of humanity. I do not wish to speak disparagingly of my brothers, or to tell you for one instant that our assistance is not needed. I simply say that heaven itself desires to create greater self-reliance in your heart, so that you will realize that when you come together, you do have an enormous power and a concentration of energy, which, if you will yourself recognize it, can be drawn forth and penetrate the density and darkness that sometimes surrounds you because you feel a sense of limitation about yourself. Will you do this with me now? Will you, as I myself make my offering to the ascended host, join with me in the drawing forth of cosmic energy? O great central sun, magnet of light and life and love, for these souls, set aside the karmic sense of injustice against any part of life, any feelings they may have, one or all, against any part of life for any condition whatsoever. Set aside also the feelings of life for them, and let them stand now in living awareness of the eternal presence, the powerful flame of Christ's love within their hearts, and let them feel the pulsations of that flame and give their energy to God that that flame be intensified and quickened. Let the glow ray of power from the sacred fire heart in the great central sun energize and warm the inward parts of their being by this sacred fire effort. And now, O beloved central sun, magnet, eternal Father, Mother God, release from their hearts the fiery energies of the fiery world, and let them be gathered up by the ascended host increasing the radiation pattern in the world by their own blessed God Self's radiation, their Holy Christ Self's radiation, and the fires of the central sun magnet. Now let this energy be intensified by the power of the ascended masters and caught up to those masters on the platform above the building. Now it is done. Now let it be radiated forth into the world. Now let the world receive the scattering of these seeds of light and be blessed by the hopes of these blessed hearts of light. O Eternal Father, it is done by thy power and glory. So let it live in them and in all humanity. And now, beloved of the light, there are many conditions in the world which present a mode of danger to humanity. Of these you have been apprised in part by K-17. Your beloved messengers have also revealed to you some of the treacherous activities that are seeking now to squelch or extinguish the light in the various communities of the world and add to the darkness of the world. Some of you are not aware of the fact that they have graven satanic images upon their altars, that they are lewd and destructive in their thoughts, that they are actually dedicated to world power and to personal power and deny the power of God. Fear not, beloved ones, for down through the ages life has continued to go on. And as in the days of old, when the altars of Baal were erected, remember that Baal's altar was torn down, and the altar of the living God received the sacred fire. I, Tabor, was present at that event, and I watched when they poured the water upon the wood, and I watched as Elias reached up and the answering call from on high produced the miracle of the sacred fire in visible descent, which ate up even all things there around, and produced such a miracle of hope in full vision of those people that they knew the difference between the living God and the gods of this world. Accept then the fiat of your I Am presence. Accept then the fiat of the God within. Accept then the fiat of the ascended masters, that there is no power but God that can act. And the Lord shall be victorious in all that you do, and you shall overcome all things whatsoever that humanity shall cast against you in the blackness of misunderstanding and confusion. And those demons and forces of darkness that seek to overcome the kingdom of God shall tremble and fall, and they shall be upon the sides of the pit. And the voice from on high shall envelop them with the power of the word and say, Never shalt thou be any more. For when humanity cease to give power to these conditions, then these conditions will cease to be. For it is human energy misqualified that is actually that which produces all unhappiness, all destruction, all confusion, all abomination upon the planetary body. And none of it comes from the ascended master's octave, save that they borrow from humanity the life which God gives to them for good and pure purposes, and distort it by stealing this energy from embodied humanity and misqualifying it. Will the students of the light then understand the need to daily call so that the energy they receive cannot be misqualified? Will they understand that this is one of the greatest means by which the new decade can be entered into with greater confidence? If you will only understand that your own personal allotment of cosmic energy given to you each day is a precious gift from on high, poured into the chalice of your identity, and that you are responsible for that grace which God gives to you. When you therefore, in addition to your other exercises, make the specific request to the Godhead that that energy shall not and cannot be misqualified into darkness, you will take a step to see to it that they do not plagiarize from the students of the light that specifically joyous and buoyant energy, which is so effectively used by the powers of darkness in their nefarious activity compared to that which they steal from the world, that they always prefer to have those cattle which are fattened by the Heavenly Father. Do you understand exactly what I am saying, beloved ones? Well, will you smile in your hearts then and enter into your own pact with your own mighty I Am presence and determine that you, from henceforward, will be a chalice of the light, and that all of your energy given to you by God shall be dedicated each day to the producing of the miracle of Christ's love in your hearts and the bringing in of the eternal kingdom for all mankind. In His name, and by the thunder from the mountain that is heard in the spiritual levels of life, I, Tabor, have spoken, and the fruit of my love is manifest as the hands of the upraised pine trees of the earth, pointing their way toward the sky and the hope that will descend from above, from on high. For victory is His name, and victory is His love. For victory is His game. He comes from heaven above. For victory through the ethers descends with tongues of flame. He utters now God's holy name. I am. I, Tabor, thank you.